What's up, Taiwan? I'm Yvonne with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. U.S. President Donald Trump has imposed sweeping tariffs on over 180 countries and territories. The long-expected announcement comes as what he's called Liberation Day, with Trump saying he's freeing the U.S. from unfair trade practices. Joyce Zhen reports.
We didn't want to it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts.
Following through on his campaign pledge to revive American industry, U.S. President Donald Trump has unveiled sweeping global tariffs, starting with a baseline 10% tariff on all goods coming from any country going into the United States. He's then listed out some of the country's biggest trading partners, levied individually, with rates ranging from 10% to 50%. On the left, what the Trump administration has calculated as the trade barriers countries have against the United States. The right, what Washington is imposing in retaliation.
What we do is we cut it in half, we charge them. My answer is very simple. If they complain, if you want your tariff rate to be zero, then you build your product right here in America, because there is no tariff if you build your plant, your product in America.
And towards the top of Trump's list is Taiwan.
Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors.
Though repeating his accusation of Taiwan stealing U.S. chip business, Trump praised Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC's recent multi-billion-dollar investment to the U.S. And significantly, he's exempting imports of those Taiwanese chips he mentioned in his announcement. Despite that, he says Taipei has trade barriers up amounting to 64%, so he's slapping on half of that as new taxes on all Taiwanese goods to the United States. Taipei, coming out with this statement on a national holiday, protested the policy, calling it strongly unreasonable and that it will have serious negotiations with Washington. Taiwan does run a large trade surplus with the U.S. at almost $74 billion, an issue that has put the country in the line of fire for Trump. That's largely because of exports of Taiwanese servers and computer parts, which in February accounted for over 60% of its shipments to the United States. Speaking on behalf of U.S. firms in Taiwan, the American Chamber of Commerce here has stressed Taiwan's, quote, indispensable role in the U.S. economy. The Chamber's chair referencing a survey of its members from late last year, which showed over 90% of them plan to keep or increase their investments in Taiwan.
And that strong confidence reflects the fundamentals that have drawn so many of these companies not only to be here, but to stay for such an extended period. Fundamentals that include the rule of law, that include Taiwan's highly skilled and capable workforce, and Taiwan's pivotal position in global supply chains. And those fundamentals have not changed.
Economists around the world have warned Trump's policy could fundamentally change the global economy, and not for the better. Prices will likely go up for everyone, including American consumers. Trump has remained adamant that U.S. prosperity needs such extreme measures. As putting pen to paper, he erects historic barriers around the world's largest consumer market. Devin Tai and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan says it will be having serious negotiations with Washington in response to the tariffs. As for what cards Taipei has to play, Joyce Zhen spoke with Xie Changtai, an economics professor at the University of Chicago.
So Trump has calculated this 64% number to reflect the barriers it believes Taiwan has against U.S. products, and that's how it got to their figure of 32%, which is half of that. Can you help us understand where this 64% comes from?
It's obviously not a 64% tariff. I mean, there is no 64% tariff. If you look at the details of how they are calculating it, they are saying that there's a lot of policies that effectively act as tariffs, but it's all hidden, right? So what they're doing is that they're looking at the countries that have that the U.S. has a large trade deficit with, or on the other side, countries that run a big surplus with the U.S., and they're basically saying that that must be because these countries impose hidden tariffs on U.S. products.
But so do you think it is a fair move that the U.S. has now imposed 32% tariffs on Taiwanese goods?
There are two questions. One is that what the Trump administration is doing makes no sense whatsoever. At the same time, that for the last 20 years, in terms of its macroeconomic policy, Taiwan has been running these unsustainable trade surpluses that does itself huge economic damage. And what's coming back to this case, it's also creating tremendous political damage with respect to the US. My sense is that nobody in Taiwan ever took sort of the problem of the trade surplus that Taiwan has seriously. That they were all focused on trying to make a deal and thinking that they could make a deal with semiconductors.
Why is it that Taiwan's trade surplus with the U.S. has grown so big, and what can they do now to fix it?
The short answer and the maybe oversimplistic answer is this idea that we have to keep our exports competitive. And the corollary to that idea is that exports are good and imports are bad. It really is explicitly the policy of the policies of the central bank that has led us to this place that we are now. Taiwan obviously has to be very careful at not pissing off the Trump administration, because it could end up in the same seat that Zelensky was in. This could also be an opportunity this could be the equivalent of a 1973 moment. 1973 was like the first crisis that Taiwan faced when the world price of oil tripled. So the response of Taiwan to that world crisis is to say the economic model that we were pursuing up until then was no longer viable. And obviously that doesn't generate results in the short run. It took 15 more years for something to come out of it. And right now, I think the broader issue is that Taiwan it's like a lot of Taiwanese companies still have this low wage, cutting costs to the bone model. This might be a time for to say, okay, given that the world is now, if we believe the world has fundamentally transformed, we need a new paradigm, we need a new model. What could that be?
That was Xie Changtai, an economics professor at the University of Chicago. Taiwanese citizens looking to find work in China may experience more difficulties as companies have been banned from posting unauthorized job ads. The Labor Ministry has completely banned companies from publishing ads for job vacancies in China or introducing Taiwanese citizens to work there. Previously, companies could do so with the ministry's approval. It comes after President Lai Ching-te recently pledged to take stronger measures against Chinese infiltration in Taiwan. Government figures show the number of Taiwanese citizens working in China, Hong Kong, and Macau has declined, dropping from nearly 400,000 before the pandemic to just over 200,000 in 2023. Taiwan's defense ministry says this year's Kuang military drills will be the largest in the country's history. The announcement comes as China continues to ramp up threats to take Taiwan by force. Hameo Khan reports.
Taiwan is gearing up for its largest ever military drills. Known as the Kuang exercises, Taiwan has been simulating how it would defend against an all-out attack from China, and these drills are crucial for the country's defense. The drills are separated into two sections. The first is a 2-week computer simulation, which uses war games to simulate different scenarios and outcomes. The second part includes live-fire drills, which usually take place for 5 days in late July, but given recent tensions with China, those have been extended to 10 days. Officials have confirmed that the computer drills will start on Saturday.
办理电脑辅助指挥所演习，将以中共灰色地带侵扰以及由严转战、进犯台湾等可能行动为想定场景，运用联合战区层级的模拟系统推演平台。
In past iterations of Kuang, Taiwan has practiced situations such as landing on highways, defending the coastline, and air defense. But this year, the drills will focus heavily on how the military can quickly mobilize its armed forces. forcing soldiers on the ground to make decisions themselves instead of waiting for orders from higher-ups. This move is in response to how China is conducting its own drills, as recent military exercises from Beijing show how quickly it can make a move on Taiwan.
因应共军由沿转战的可能行动，同时考量后备部队战力恢复需求的时间，国军运用常备部队既有的兵力及资源，先期遂行阻绝、布雷及物资分散屯储等各项备战部署作业。
The Hangguang exercises have been criticized in the past for being too scripted, with critics pointing to one part of the drill in which a team in red, simulating China, always loses to the defending Taiwan blue team. Taiwan's military has now gotten rid of this part of the drill, something being hailed as a step forward towards a more robust defense strategy.
The fact that they are operating without a script is really terrific because it makes people start thinking independently, not just waiting for orders to arrive from a centralized location, because command and control in a realistic war scenario could be damaged. Bringing that initiative down to the lower units is really, really vital, and it's terrific to see.
With China having just wrapped up large-scale blockade drills around Taiwan, this year's Hangguang exercises are ever more important as the country improves its plans to prevent a conflict from breaking out. Howard Zhang and Jaime Okan for TaiwanPlus.
The U.S. State Department has approved the potential sale of 20 F-16 fighter jets to the Philippines. The department says the $5.5 billion sale will improve the Philippines' security as it faces increasing pressure from China. Beijing and Manila have repeatedly clashed over disputed islands in the South China Sea in recent months. China claims the entire sea, something the Philippines and other nearby countries have challenged. The Philippines military has welcomed the possible F-16 sale. It comes less than a week after U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth visited the country, where he pledged to help strengthen deterrence against China. April 3rd marks 1 year since a deadly magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck Taiwan. The tremor felt across the country, collapsed buildings, and triggered landslides, killing at least 18 people. The eastern county of Hualien was the worst affected. That area's economy relies heavily on tourism, an industry that has since failed to recover. Taroko National Park, one of Taiwan's biggest attractions, has been closed indefinitely. But with repairs underway, there are hopes that its phased reopening will bring tourists back.
我们是以采分级分阶段的目标来前进，只要修到哪里能够开放，我们就立即开放。那我们这边呼吁游客，如果要到太鲁阁国家公园园区里面观赏或游玩的话，可以先到我们太鲁阁国家公园的官网去看一下哪些步道是开放，哪些步道是封闭。
You can visit the TaiwanPlus website to watch the first of 2 special reports about how communities in Hualien are still feeling the impact of that devastating quake. It's a day off for most of Taiwan, and many are hitting the road, not just for vacation, but also to pay respects to those who came before them. Known as the Tomb Sweeping or Qingming Festival, the holiday sees people across the country return to their hometowns and honor their ancestors. Chris Gorin explains.
Today is the start of the Tomb Sweeping holiday, also known as the Qingming Festival. It's a special time when Taiwanese families visit and tidy up their ancestral graves. Many offer food and incense to honor their loved ones who've passed on, often burning paper money and other items symbolizing prosperity in the afterlife. Behind me here, you can see some traditional ancestral graves, often built on high hillsides with scenic views. The tall buildings there are columbaria, an increasingly popular alternative. Now, these vertical memorial towers include many individual urns, offering a practical way to honor the deceased on this small island where space is scarce. Now, as the holiday goes on, trains and roads are packed with people returning to their hometowns to reconnect with family and pay respects to those who've moved on. Ryan Wu and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.